There was a young man named Oliver. Oliver was sincere and warm-hearted, but he suffered from one problem that never left him. He couldn't stop comparing himself to others. My college friends are earning way more than I am. On social media, everyone's traveling overseas and eating at fancy restaurants. Some of my high school friends already bought houses. Others are getting married and settling into stable lives. Oliver's eyes were always turned outward, toward what others had, what they had achieved, the pictures they posted. A dozen times a day, he tormented himself by looking at what he didn't have. Every night he felt anxious, and every morning he woke up heavier than before. Watching his son sink deeper into this state, Oliver's father made a decision. He would send him to the sage in their rural hometown. This sage was respected by everyone, gentle, calm, and known for his generous spirit. When Oliver arrived, the sage greeted him with a warm smile. After listening to the young man's troubles, the sage spoke. There is a way to calm the anxiety that burdens you, but first you must carry out a small task. He brought out a large sack of beans and carefully placed it on top of Oliver's head. Walk around the village with this on your head. You must not hold it with your hands, and you must not let it fall. It sounded absurd, but Oliver obediently nodded and set off. At first, he thought it would be easy, but after just a few steps, the sack began to wobble. He had to focus every ounce of attention on keeping it balanced. Meanwhile, the villagers were busy living their lives. Some chuckled at the sight of him, some were in the middle of an argument, and one man was frantically chasing after his runaway dog. By the time Oliver finished half the route, his whole body was drenched, and when he finally returned to the sage, a full hour had passed. The sage smiled quietly and asked, "Well done, Oliver. Tell me, while you were walking, do you remember what the villagers were doing?" Oliver shook his head, still catching his breath. "No, I was too focused on the bean sack. I barely noticed anything around me." The sage nodded. "That's exactly the point. You were so focused on protecting that one sack that you had no space to notice what anyone else was doing. People are the same. When you focus on your own life, there is no room for envy, no space to worry about someone else's path or progress." His voice was soft, but it carried weight. The time you spend envying others is time stolen from your own life. Give that time back to yourself. Even the simplest task, done with your full attention, will help you grow faster and take you farther than you can imagine. Only then did Oliver understand. He thought of all the days he had wasted comparing himself to others. Days when he kept staring at where everyone else had already arrived, while he himself hadn't taken a single proper step forward. From that day on, Oliver slowly turned his gaze inward. He chose focus instead of comparison, and trust in his own pace instead of fear. He finally realized a person who belittles their own work and admires only other people's accomplishments can never grow. Success doesn't begin with something grand. It doesn't begin where someone else's achievements are shining. It begins with a small task done sincerely and patiently. One small accomplishment leads to another goal, and that goal gives strength to chase a bigger one. In repeating that process, a person truly grows, no matter how impressive someone else's road looks. Abandoning your own path will leave you stuck forever. Comparison freezes both your gaze and your steps, but those who focus on themselves are different. Even a single step forward taken day after day can eventually transform an entire life. And Oliver finally learned success doesn't come from envying others. It comes from becoming just a little better than yesterday. When you keep your focus on your own bag of beans and succeed again and again, the bags will quietly pile up until one day you realize they've become an immense force. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe